The medical vessel Solace moved silently through the darkness of space. Its smooth silver surface reflected the faint glow of a faraway sun. Inside, the air hummed with quiet activity. The ship was one of the most advanced in the galaxy, designed to save lives in even the harshest corners of the universe. It carried technology that could diagnose diseases faster than any human mind and perform surgeries with precision no hands could match. Yet among all this cutting-edge equipment, there was one thing that stood out: a human doctor. Dr. Rachel Monroe walked down the narrow corridor of the ship, her boots making soft sounds against the metal floor. She glanced at the walls lined with screens displaying streams of data. Every number, every graph told a story about health and illness, life and death. But Rachel knew there were stories machines couldn't read. That was why she was here. Not because she was needed. Not really, but because it was tradition. No one had ever explained why, but every medical vessel like the Solace always had at least one human doctor on board. Commander Alex Carter stood near the main console, his arms crossed as he studied the information coming in from their destination. He was a tall man with sharp features and an even sharper mind. Efficiency mattered more to him than anything else, and he often wondered why they bothered keeping humans around when machines did everything better. Still, orders were orders, and Rachel was part of the crew. "We're almost there," Alex said without looking up. His voice was calm but firm, the kind of tone that demanded attention. The colony sent over preliminary reports. "Whatever's happening down there, it's bad." Rachel nodded, stepping closer to look at the screen. The data scrolled quickly, showing symptoms that didn't make sense. Fevers spiking to dangerous levels, muscles twitching uncontrollably, and something described only as emotional collapse. None of it fit neatly into any known disease profile. The AI systems on board were already working to find connections, searching for patterns in the chaos. But Rachel felt uneasy. There was something missing, something the numbers couldn't capture. "They're scared," Rachel said softly. Her eyes scanned the notes sent by the colonists. Alongside descriptions of physical pain were mentions of nightmares, whispers in the dark, and feelings of being watched. "These people aren't just sick, they're terrified." Alex frowned, glancing at her briefly before turning back to the screen. "Fear doesn't show up on scans. We deal with facts, not feelings." "I know," Rachel replied, her voice steady despite his dismissal. "But fear can make things worse. If we don't address what's scaring them, treating the illness might not be enough." Alex didn't respond. He trusted the AI to handle the technical side of things, and he wasn't convinced Rachel's approach added much value. Still, he let her speak. For now, there wasn't much else to do but wait until they reached the colony. As the Solace approached its destination, the view outside the windows became clearer. The planet below was a mix of green and brown, dotted with patches of gray where settlements had been built. From high above, it looked peaceful, almost inviting. But Rachel knew appearances could deceive. She had seen too many worlds like this, places where beauty hid danger beneath the surface. When the ship landed, the team prepared to disembark. Rachel grabbed her medical kit and followed Alex off the ramp. The air smelled strange, a mix of earth and something metallic. Around them, the colony stretched out in uneven rows of buildings, some made of stone, others of prefabricated materials shipped from other planets. People moved between them, their faces pale and drawn. Some leaned on each other for support, while others sat slumped against walls, staring blankly ahead. A man hurried toward them, his clothes dusty and his expression frantic. "Thank you for coming," he said, his voice trembling. "We don't know what's wrong. Everyone's getting sick and nothing we try helps." Alex nodded, signaling for the AI units to begin scanning the area. Small drones buzzed into the air, collecting samples and taking readings. Meanwhile, Rachel stepped forward, introducing herself to the man. "I'm Dr. Monroe. Can you tell me more about what's happening?" The man hesitated, then gestured for her to follow him. "It started a few weeks ago. At first, it was just headaches and fatigue. We thought maybe it was stress or bad water. But then people started collapsing. And the dreams." His voice trailed off, and he shivered despite the heat. "What? Dreams?" Rachel asked gently. He shook his head. "They're different for everyone, but they all feel real, like someone or something is trying to warn us. My wife woke up screaming last night. She said she saw shadows moving in our room, even though I swear no one was there." Rachel listened carefully, noting the details. To Alex, these stories might seem irrelevant, but to her they were clues. Fear wasn't just a reaction, it was a symptom. And if she wanted to help these people, she needed to understand what was causing it. Back at the makeshift hospital, the scene was chaotic. Beds lined the walls, occupied by patients who moaned or lay still, their breathing shallow. Nurses rushed between them, doing their best to keep everyone stable. The AI units worked methodically, attaching sensors to foreheads and chests, uploading data to the ship's central system. Rachel moved among the patients, introducing herself and asking questions. She spoke softly, her presence calming even as she probed for answers. One woman clutched Rachel's hand tightly, her eyes wide with panic. "Please, you have to help us. It's not just the sickness. It's like the planet itself is alive. It hates us." Rachel paused, studying the woman's face. She didn't dismiss the comment as paranoia. Instead, she filed it away, along with everything else she'd heard. There was a pattern forming, though it wasn't one the machines would recognize. This wasn't just about biology. It was about belief, emotion, and survival. By the end of the day, Rachel returned to the Solace, exhausted but determined. In the command center, Alex reviewed the AI's findings. So far, nothing conclusive had emerged. Frustration crept into his voice as he summarized the results. No pathogens, no toxins, no environmental factors that explain this. It's like the disease came out of nowhere. Rachel leaned against the wall, her arms crossed. "Maybe it did," she said quietly. "Or maybe it's not a disease at all. Maybe it's something else entirely." Alex raised an eyebrow. "Something else? Like what?" She shrugged. "I don't know yet. But I think we'll find the answer if we stop looking at this purely as a medical problem. Sometimes the key isn't in the body, it's in the mind." For a moment, Alex didn't say anything. Then he sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "Fine. Do what you need to do. But remember, time is short. If your theory doesn't pan out, we'll go back to relying on the AI." Rachel nodded, grateful for the chance to prove herself. As she left the room, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were dealing with something far bigger and stranger than anyone realized. But she also knew one thing for certain. Solving this mystery would take more than logic, it would take humanity. The next morning, Rachel returned to the colony with a renewed sense of purpose. The AI had spent the night analyzing data, but still hadn't found a clear cause for the illness. Patients continued to suffer, their conditions worsening despite treatment attempts. The colonists' fear was palpable now, hanging heavy in the air like a storm cloud ready to burst. Rachel knew she couldn't wait for the machines to deliver answers. They weren't built to understand the human element of this crisis. Commander Alex Carter accompanied her, though reluctantly. He didn't share Rachel's belief that emotions or stories could hold any real value in solving the problem. To him, the situation was straightforward. Find the biological source of the disease and neutralize it. But as they walked through the settlement, he couldn't ignore how deeply the colonists' terror seemed to be tied to their physical symptoms. People spoke in hushed tones about strange lights in the forest, eerie sounds at night, and dreams that felt more real than waking life. These accounts made no sense to Alex, yet they clearly weighed heavily on those who lived here. Rachel stopped to speak with a young woman sitting outside one of the buildings. Her face was pale, her hands trembling as she clutched a blanket around her shoulders. "Can you tell me what you've been experiencing?" Rachel asked gently, crouching down to meet her eye level. The woman hesitated before speaking. "It started with headaches. Then I began hearing things, voices, whispers. They told me to leave, to get away from here. But when I tried to go outside, my legs wouldn't move. It was like something was holding me back." "Did you see anything unusual?" Rachel pressed, her voice calm but curious. The woman nodded, slowly. There are caves not far from here. Some of us went exploring once. Inside there were markings on the walls. They glowed faintly, like they were alive. After that, everything changed. People got sick. And the dreams. Oh, the dreams. She shuddered, pulling the blanket tighter around herself. Rachel exchanged a glance with Alex, who looked skeptical but intrigued. Markings? Can you show us where these caves are? The woman pointed toward the edge of the settlement. That way. Just follow the path into the woods, but be careful. No one goes there anymore. With permission from the colony leaders, Rachel and Alex set out to investigate. The path led them away from the makeshift hospital and deeper into the wilderness surrounding the settlement. Trees towered above them, their branches swaying slightly in the breeze. The ground beneath their feet was uneven, covered in roots and rocks. As they walked, the sounds of the colony faded, replaced by an unsettling silence. After about 20 minutes, they reached the entrance to the caves. It was dark and narrow, almost hidden by overgrown vines. Rachel pulled out a flashlight and stepped inside, Alex close behind her. The air grew cooler as they ventured further, the beam of light revealing jagged walls and low ceilings. Then suddenly the markings appeared. They covered every surface, intricate patterns etched into the stone. Some looked like symbols, others like abstract shapes. What caught Rachel's attention most was the faint glow emanating from them. It pulsed rhythmically, almost like a heartbeat. She reached out instinctively, brushing her fingers against the nearest marking. A shiver ran down her spine. It felt warm, alive. Alex frowned, scanning the area with his own device. These markings emit low-frequency vibrations, he said, after a moment. Nothing harmful according to the readings, but why would anyone carve something like this into rock? Rachel didn't answer right away. She studied the patterns carefully, trying to piece together their meaning. Something about them felt familiar, though she couldn't explain why. Then it hit her. The descriptions given by the colonists matched perfectly. Shadowy figures, glowing, lights, voices in the dark. Whatever these markings represented, they were connected to the illness affecting the settlement. We need to take samples, Alex said, already pulling tools from his pack. If these vibrations are influencing the colonists somehow, we need to figure out how. Rachel nodded, helping him collect fragments of the glowing stone. But as they worked, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were missing something crucial. The colonists' fear wasn't just paranoia. It was a reaction to something very real. And if they wanted to stop the sickness, they needed to address its root cause, not just its effects. Back aboard the Solace, the team analyzed the samples under strict conditions. The AI confirmed what Alex had observed earlier. The markings emitted low-frequency vibrations detectable only by certain species, including humans. This discovery puzzled everyone except Rachel. She realized the vibrations might be triggering deep-seated fears buried within the subconscious mind, amplifying the colonists' anxiety until it manifested physically. This isn't just a medical issue, Rachel explained during a meeting with Alex and the rest of the crew. It's psychological. The colonists aren't just imagining things, they're responding to stimuli their brains interpret as threats. That's why treating their bodies hasn't worked. We need to tackle the fear itself. Alex listened silently, his expression unreadable. Finally, he leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. You're suggesting we treat their minds instead of their bodies? In a way, yes, Rachel replied. But it's not that simple. Fear can weaken the immune system, making people more susceptible to illness. If we can reduce their terror, their bodies might start healing naturally. Her suggestions sparked debate among the crew. Some agreed with Rachel, pointing out that traditional treatments had failed so far. Others sided with Alex, arguing that focusing on emotions was a waste of time when they should be doubling down on finding a biological solution. Eventually, Alex raised a hand to quiet the room. All right, he said firmly. We'll test your theory, Dr. Monroe. If it works, great. If not, we'll go back to relying on the AI. Either way, we're running out of options. Rachel felt a flicker of relief. She knew this experiment carried risks, but it was worth trying. With Alex's approval, she devised a plan to expose, select patients to controlled doses of the frequencies emitted by the cave markings. Using recordings taken during their exploration, she combined the vibrations with calming auditory stimuli designed to counteract their negative effects. The first trial took place the following day. Rachel selected 3 volunteers willing to participate, each showing severe symptoms of the illness. She attached sensors to monitor their vital signs while playing the recorded frequencies through headphones. At first, nothing happened. The patients remained tense, their breathing shallow and erratic. But as Rachel introduced soothing music and guided relaxation techniques, something shifted. One man visibly relaxed, his clenched fists uncurling as his shoulders dropped. Another woman closed her eyes, her panicked expression softening into calm. By the end of the session, all 3 reported feeling less afraid, their physical symptoms easing slightly. Though far from cured, the change was undeniable. Alex watched the results unfold with mixed emotions. He had doubted Rachel's approach, yet here was proof that it worked, at least partially. "This doesn't solve everything," he admitted, grudgingly. "But it's progress." Rachel smiled faintly. "It's a start, and sometimes that's all we need." As word of the experiment spread, hope began to return to the colony. More patients volunteered for treatment, and gradually, the atmosphere shifted. People still struggled with the illness, but their fear diminished, allowing their bodies to fight back. Even Alex started to see the value in Rachel's methods, though he kept his thoughts to himself. For Rachel, the experience reinforced what she'd always believed. Medicine wasn't just about fixing broken parts. It was about understanding the whole person, their body, their mind, their spirit. Machines could do incredible things, but they lacked the empathy and intuition that came naturally to humans. That was why ships like the Solace always carried a human doctor on board, not because they were necessary, but because they brought something irreplaceable to the mission. And as the Solace prepared to leave the colony behind, Rachel stood at the window, watching the planet shrink into the distance. She knew they hadn't solved every mystery, but they'd made a difference. Sometimes that was enough. The success of the initial trials gave Rachel and the crew a glimmer of hope, but it also raised new questions. If the vibrations from the cave markings were causing fear, how had they been affecting the colonists for so long without anyone noticing? And why did some people seem more affected than others? These thoughts weighed on Rachel as she continued her work aboard the Solace. The treatment plan was expanding, with more patients receiving controlled exposure to the frequencies combined with calming techniques. Yet, even as physical symptoms began to improve, Rachel couldn't shake the feeling that they were only scratching the surface of a much deeper problem. Commander Alex Carter remained skeptical, though he kept his doubts to himself. He trusted the data. The results spoke for themselves, but part of him still struggled to accept that emotions could play such a critical role in something as tangible as illness. To him, the universe operated on logic and facts, not feelings. Still, he couldn't deny that Rachel's approach was working where technology had failed. For now, he focused on supporting her efforts while keeping an eye on the bigger picture. One evening, after another round of treatments, Rachel decided to revisit the caves. Something about the markings haunted her, lingering in her mind like an unfinished puzzle. She asked Alex to accompany her, knowing his technical expertise might help uncover details she'd missed before. Reluctantly, he agreed, bringing along equipment to gather more precise readings. The journey back to the caves felt different this time. The air seemed heavier, charged with an energy Rachel couldn't quite explain. As they approached the entrance, she noticed faint traces of light spilling out from within, pulsing rhythmically in sync with the vibrations. It was mesmerizing, almost hypnotic. Alex, too, seemed captivated, though he tried to hide it behind his usual stoic demeanor. Inside, the markings glowed brighter than before, casting eerie shadows across the walls. Rachel ran her fingers over the symbols again, feeling their warmth spread through her skin. "These aren't just random patterns," she murmured, half to herself. "They're communicating something." Alex raised an eyebrow. Communicating? With whom? I don't know yet, Rachel admitted. But think about it. The colonists described dreams, voices, sensations. What if these markings are designed to interact with certain species, like humans? Maybe they're triggering responses deep within our subconscious. Alex frowned, adjusting the settings on his scanner. That's a stretch. Even if these vibrations affect the brain, why would anyone create something like this? And who would do it? Rachel didn't have answers, but she knew they were close to finding them. She suggested mapping the entire cave system, hoping to uncover more clues. Together, they ventured deeper into the labyrinth, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. The further they went, the more elaborate the markings became, covering every inch of the stone walls. Some depicted swirling shapes, others resembled figures standing in shadowy poses. One section caught Rachel's attention, a series of symbols arranged in what looked like a sequence. "Look at this," she said, pointing to the pattern. "It's like a story, a warning maybe." Alex studied it closely, running scans to detect any hidden mechanisms or traps. "If it's a warning, it's not very clear. What does it mean?" Rachel shook her head. "I'm not sure, but I think it's connected to the sickness. Whatever these markings represent, they're influencing the colonists' minds. That's why they're scared, and why their bodies are breaking down." As they continued exploring, the vibrations grew stronger, resonating in their chests like a low hum. Rachel felt lightheaded, her thoughts clouding with images she couldn't control. Shadows danced at the edges of her vision, whispering words she couldn't understand. She stumbled, clutching the wall for support. Alex grabbed her arm, steadying her. "You okay?" he asked, concern creeping into his voice. She nodded, taking a deep breath. "Yeah, just overwhelmed. These vibrations, they're powerful. Too powerful." Alex hesitated, then turned off his scanner. "We should go back. This place isn't safe." Rachel agreed, though reluctantly. They retraced their steps, emerging into the cool night air outside the cave. The relief was immediate, the oppressive weight lifting as they moved away from the entrance. Back aboard the Solace, Rachel pored over the data they'd collected, searching for connections between the markings and the colonists' experiences. Alex joined her, his skepticism giving way to curiosity. "There's something here," he said finally, pointing to a graph showing spikes in neural activity when exposed to the vibrations. These frequencies target specific areas of the brain associated with fear and survival instincts. Whoever created these markings knew exactly what they were doing. Rachel nodded, her heart racing. "And they're still active. That means someone, or something, is maintaining them." The realization sent a chill down her spine. If the markings weren't ancient relics but part of an ongoing system, then the danger wasn't over. The colonists might be recovering, but the source of their fear remained intact, waiting to strike again. Over the next few days, Rachel worked tirelessly to refine the treatment plan. She incorporated elements designed to counteract the psychological effects of the vibrations, using sound therapy and guided meditation to calm patients' minds. Slowly but surely, the colony began to stabilize. People regained strength, their spirits lifting as the oppressive dread faded. Even Alex acknowledged the progress, though he remained cautious. Still, Rachel knew they couldn't leave without addressing the root cause. She proposed sealing the caves, preventing anyone else from being exposed to the markings. Alex supported the idea, recognizing the potential threat they posed. Together, they coordinated with the colony leaders to block the entrance permanently. On the final day of their mission, Rachel stood at the mouth of the cave, watching as workers erected barriers and reinforced the walls. She felt a pang of sadness, knowing they were leaving behind mysteries they might never fully understand. But she also felt pride. Against all odds, they had made a difference, not just by treating the illness, but by confronting the fear that fueled it. As the Solace prepared for departure, Alex approached Rachel in the command center. "You were right," he said simply. about the importance of human intuition. Machines can analyze data, but they can't see the bigger picture. Not like you can. Rachel smiled, touched by his rare moment of vulnerability. It's not about replacing technology. It's about working together. Humans and machines. We complement each other. Alex nodded, offering a small smile of his own. Well, whatever the reason, I'm glad you're here. With that, the solace lifted, off, leaving the planet behind. Rachel gazed out the window, reflecting on everything they'd learned. The experience had reinforced her belief in the power of empathy and connection. No matter how advanced technology became, there would always be room for humanity, for listening, understanding and healing in ways no machine ever could. And as the stars stretched endlessly before them, Rachel knew one thing for certain. The galaxy was full of wonders and dangers alike. But with compassion and courage, they could face anything. It threw their way. The Solace drifted through the vast emptiness of space, its engines humming softly as it carried its crew further from the troubled colony. Though the immediate crisis had been contained, Rachel couldn't shake the feeling that their work wasn't done. The cave markings still lingered in her mind, their glowing patterns etched into her memory like a puzzle she couldn't solve. She spent hours reviewing the data they'd collected, searching for answers that continued to elude her. Commander Alex Carter noticed her dedication, or perhaps obsession, and approached her one evening as she sat alone in the ship's research lab. "You're still thinking about those caves, aren't you?" he asked, leaning against the doorway. Rachel looked up, surprised by his presence. "Yes," she admitted. "There's something we're missing. Those markings weren't just, random carvings. They were deliberate, designed to influence people. And whoever made them didn't do it without purpose." Alex crossed his arms, his expression thoughtful. "You think someone is using them as a weapon?" "I don't know," Rachel replied, shaking her head. "Maybe. Or maybe they're meant to protect something, or warn us away from it. Either way, we can't ignore the fact that they're still active. If another group stumbles across them, they could face the same fate as the colonists." Alex sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "So what do you suggest, we go back and destroy them?" "Not destroy," Rachel said quickly. "We need to understand them first. Destroying them might not even be possible. They seem self-sustaining. But if we can figure out who created them and why, we might find a way to neutralize their effects." Her words hung in the air between them, heavy with implication. Alex knew she was right. Their mission wasn't truly complete until they addressed the source of the problem. Still, pursuing this line of inquiry would take time and resources they might not have. Space travel wasn't cheap, and every moment spent chasing mysteries delayed their ability to help others in need. After a long pause, Alex nodded. "All right, let's dig deeper. But I want to focus on practical steps. What's our next move?" Rachel brightened slightly, grateful for his support. "We need to analyze the recordings again. There might be patterns or sequences we missed before, and I think we should reach out to other colonies in the region. If these markings are part of a larger system, someone else might have encountered them." With Alex's approval, the team got to work. Rachel pored over the audio files, isolating specific frequencies and studying how they interacted with human brain activity. Meanwhile, communications officers sent messages to nearby settlements, asking if anyone had seen similar phenomena. Days passed without significant breakthroughs, but Rachel refused to give up. She believed they were close to uncovering something vital. One night, as she reviewed the data yet again, something caught her eye, a faint pattern embedded within the vibrations. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but unmistakably intentional. Rachel called Alex immediately, her excitement impossible to contain. "Look at this," she said, pointing to the screen. "These frequencies aren't random. They form a kind of code, a message." Alex leaned closer, studying the waveform. "Are you sure?" "Yes," Rachel replied firmly. "It's too consistent to be natural. Someone designed these vibrations to communicate, not verbally, but directly to the subconscious mind." The discovery reignited the crew's energy. Working together, they decoded fragments of the message, piecing together snippets of information. It wasn't language in the traditional sense, but rather impressions and images translated into sound. Slowly, a narrative began to emerge, a warning about an ancient force buried beneath the planet's surface. According to the fragmented message, the markings served as both a deterrent and a safeguard. Long ago, an advanced civilization had sealed away something dangerous, entrapping it deep underground. The vibrations acted as a psychological barrier, discouraging anyone from venturing too close. Over time, however, the safeguards had weakened, allowing traces of the force's influence to seep into the minds of those nearby. Rachel shared her findings with Alex, who listened intently. So the sickness wasn't caused by the markings themselves, it was a side effect of whatever they were protecting against, he concluded. Exactly, Rachel agreed. And if that force breaks free, they didn't need to finish the thought. The implications were clear. The danger wasn't confined to the colony or even the planet. If the seal failed completely, the consequences could ripple across the galaxy. Determined to prevent such an outcome, Rachel proposed returning to the planet to investigate further. This time, they would descend into the deepest parts of the cave system, seeking evidence of the sealed entity. Alex hesitated, weighing the risks against the potential rewards. Finally, he gave his consent, emphasizing the importance of caution. Back on the planet, the team prepared for their descent. Armed with reinforced suits and advanced scanning equipment, they entered the caves once more. The air felt heavier than before, charged with an unsettling energy. As they ventured deeper, the markings grew denser, their glow intensifying with each step. Shadows danced along the walls, twisting into shapes that seemed almost alive. At last, they reached a massive chamber at the heart of the cave system. In its center stood a towering structure, covered in the same glowing symbols as the rest of the caves. At its base lay a circular platform, pulsing with rhythmic light. Rachel approached cautiously, her breath catching as she realized what she was seeing. "This is it," she whispered. "This is the seal." Alex scanned the structure, his device picking up readings unlike anything they'd encountered before. Energy levels are off the charts. Whatever's trapped inside, Ganon, it's powerful. Rachel nodded, her mind racing. "We need to reinforce the seal. If these vibrations are weakening, we can amplify them artificially. Use our technology to strengthen the barrier." Working together, the team set up equipment designed to project controlled frequencies into the chamber. As the machines hummed to life, the pulsing light stabilized, growing brighter and steadier. The oppressive atmosphere began to lift, replaced by a sense of calm. When the process was complete, Rachel stepped back, exhaustion washing over her. "It's done," she said quietly. "For now, the seal should hold." Alex placed a hand on her shoulder, offering a rare smile. "Good work, Doctor. You saved more than just the colony today." As they left the caves behind, Rachel felt a profound sense of relief. They hadn't unraveled every mystery, but they had taken a crucial step toward protecting the galaxy from an unimaginable threat. Back aboard the Solace, she reflected on the journey, realizing how much they had accomplished, not just through technology, but through teamwork and trust. For Rachel, the experience reinforced her belief in the unique value humans brought to missions like this. Machines could calculate and execute, but humans provided intuition, empathy, and resilience. Together they formed a balance no single force could replicate. And as the Solace sailed onward, its course set for new destinations, Rachel knew one thing for certain: wherever they went, humanity's strength would always be their greatest asset. The Solace moved silently through space, its sleek form cutting through the endless void like a blade. Inside, the crew worked to restore order after their harrowing mission on the planet. For Rachel Monroe, the experience had been transformative. She had faced fear, not just in others but within herself, and emerged stronger for it. Yet as she sat alone in her quarters, staring out at the stars, she couldn't help but wonder what other mysteries awaited them in the vastness of the galaxy. Commander Alex Carter joined her later that evening, his usual stoic demeanor softened by the weight of everything they'd endured. You've been quiet, he observed, taking a seat across from her. Thinking about the caves? Rachel nodded. In a way. I keep wondering if we did enough. The seal is stable now, but how long will it last? What happens when someone else stumbles upon it or something breaks it open? Alex sighed, leaning back in his chair. We can't control everything, Rachel. All we can do is prepare for what comes next. I know, she replied softly. But sometimes preparation isn't enough. We need to understand why things happen, not just fix them. Her words struck a chord with Alex. He had always prided himself on efficiency, on solving problems quickly and moving on. But this mission had taught him that some issues required more than logic and speed. They demanded patience, creativity, and a willingness to embrace uncertainty. You're right, he admitted after a pause. This trip made me see things differently. Machines are tools, they follow instructions, but humans, we adapt. We find solutions no algorithm could predict. Rachel smiled faintly, touched by his rare moment of reflection. That's why ships like the Solace always carry human doctors. It's not just tradition, it's necessity. Empathy and intuition are skills no machine can replicate. Alex nodded thoughtfully. And maybe that's why you're here. To remind us of that. The conversation lingered between them, unspoken but understood. As the days passed, the crew settled into their routines, preparing for whatever challenges lay ahead. Reports from nearby colonies indicated no immediate threats, giving them time to regroup and recharge. Still, Rachel remained vigilant, knowing the universe rarely granted peace for long. One afternoon, as she reviewed medical logs from their recent mission, a transmission arrived from a distant outpost. The message was brief but urgent. A research team stationed near an uncharted asteroid belt had reported strange occurrences, crew members experiencing vivid hallucinations and unexplained physical symptoms. The description sent shivers down Rachel's spine. It sounded eerily familiar. Without hesitation, she brought the report to Alex. It's happening again, she said, her voice steady but firm. Whatever force we encountered on that planet might not be contained. Alex studied the message carefully, his jaw tightening. If it's spreading, we need to act fast. The decision was unanimous. The Solace would divert course and investigate. As they approached the outpost, tension filled the air. The asteroid field loomed ahead, jagged rocks tumbling through space like pieces of a broken puzzle. Among them floated the research station, a small battered structure clinging to life amidst the chaos. Upon arrival, the team discovered the situation was worse than expected. The researchers were disoriented, their minds trapped in a haze of fear and confusion. One scientist, barely coherent, described seeing shadows moving outside the windows, even though there was nothing visible beyond the glass. Another claimed to hear whispers echoing through the corridors, voices warning of doom. Rachel listened intently, piecing together their accounts. Once again, the symptoms pointed to psychological distress, amplified by external stimuli. With Alex's support, she led a team to explore the surrounding area, searching for signs of interference similar to the cave markings. Their search revealed something astonishing. Fragments of glowing stone embedded in the asteroids pulsing with the same low-frequency vibrations. It's spreading, Rachel murmured, her heart sinking. The force isn't confined to one planet. It's infiltrating other locations. Alex clenched his fists, frustration evident in his expression. How do we stop it? Destroying every piece of rock isn't an option. Rachel shook her head. Destruction won't work. We saw that before. We need to neutralize the source wherever it is, and we need to do it quickly. Back aboard the Solace, the crew worked tirelessly to devise a plan. Using data from both missions, they identified patterns linking the affected areas. Each site shared a common feature: proximity to ancient ruins or artifacts. It became clear that the force they sought wasn't random. It was tied to remnants of the same civilization responsible for the original seal. With renewed determination, Rachel proposed tracing these connections to their origin. By mapping the locations of known disturbances, They could pinpoint the epicenter of the phenomenon. Alex agreed, recognizing the importance of addressing the root cause once and for all. Weeks turned into months as the Solace traveled from one anomaly to another, unraveling the threads of a millennia-old mystery. Along the way, Rachel and Alex grew closer, their partnership evolving into a deep mutual respect. Together they balanced logic and emotion, technology and humanity, creating a synergy neither could achieve alone. Finally, after countless trials and setbacks, they reached their destination, a derelict spacecraft drifting silently in the depths of space. Its design was alien yet hauntingly familiar, adorned with symbols matching those found in the caves and asteroids. Inside, they discovered evidence of a catastrophic event, an experiment gone wrong, releasing the very force they had been chasing. Armed with this knowledge, the crew devised a final solution. Using advanced equipment, they created a containment field capable of suppressing the force's influence. Though risky, the procedure succeeded, stabilizing the region and preventing further contamination. As the Solace departed, Rachel stood at the window, watching the wreckage fade into the distance. She felt a profound sense of closure, knowing they had fulfilled their mission. Yet she also recognized the fragility of their victory. The universe was vast and unpredictable, full of wonders and dangers alike. Will it ever end? Alex asked quietly, joining her. Rachel glanced at him, her expression thoughtful. Probably not, but that's why we're here. To face the unknown, to protect what matters most. Alex nodded, offering a small smile. Then let's keep going. And so, the Solace sailed onward, its journey far from over. For Rachel, Alex, and the rest of the crew, the adventure was a reminder of humanity's resilience and ingenuity. No matter the challenge, they would endure, not because they were perfect, but because they were human. And in a galaxy of infinite possibilities, that made all the difference.